What is good, Credit people, and welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Bobbalam, rejecting every sponsorship deal that comes my way on YouTube or any social media for that matter. Old Spice and Beats, I'm talking to you. I like how my armpits smell, especially when I'm eating tablespoons full of peanut butter with my AirPods case as a utensil. But in related news, it has been officially announced by Lil Tecca's team that he actually rejected this year's 2020 XXL freshman class. And as surprising as that sounds, it kind of makes sense when we evaluate his career thus far and compare to some of the current artists on the list. But on the other hand, this year's class is pretty solid as a whole, at least numbers wise. So the real question of today's video remains, is Lil Tecca too big for the XXL freshman list? Let's talk about it. Okay, so as you may or may not know, XXL released their annual freshman class, essentially attempting to accomplish one of the following goals. Actually, potentially a combination of both, but composing of the latest hip-hop up-and-coming stars and/or already blossomed stars that just experienced one of their first big-time hits. This year's class consists of Polo G, Cowboy, NLE Choppa, Lil Keed, Chica, Lil TJ, Baby Keem, Jack Harlow, Rod Wave, Mulatto, Fivio Foreign, and 24K Golden. Might have missed one or two, but you get the point. If you're an avid hip-hop listener keeping up with the latest poppin' artists, such as myself, which I expect most of you are if you're watching this video too, you probably know most of the artists on the list, aside from like one or two, cause who the f knows who Chica or Mulatto are? No offense to the females out there, but I feel like the only reason XXL included them was cause they had some tig old biddies, and with the world's shortage in dairy products due to angry cow disease going around lately, XXL needed to take every action to make sure they maintained a steady supply of that moo milk. But regardless of who was actually included on the list, there were a couple artists that fans pointed out weren't on the list, such as Lil Tecca, who had a massive year in 2019 and almost seemed like a shoo-in on the XXL freshman this year after being snubbed in last year's class. Keep in mind though, the specific diction I just used, massive year in 2019, I haven't really heard much from Tecca in 2020 to be honest, but that's probably because he's still cooking up new music for his next album coming very soon titled Virgo World. But in addition to this fact, there were some other very significant reasons as to why he wasn't included on this year's list either. For Lil Tecca's manager actually responded to a fan on Twitter by quote tweeting their post tagging XXL stating, "XXL, y'all robbed Lil Tecca. Glow did 96K first week off a mixtape at 16 and then corrected them on the numbers, but also added 70K first week at 16 years old off a mixtape with no features. Also, we passed on XXL this year, but congrats to everyone on it," confirming the fact that Lil Tecca and his team actually rejected this year's freshman class, which at first many fans and artists alike would be simply just shocked, for it's many people's dreams to be on the XXL list every year and share a piece of history with legendary artists of the past. My personal favorite, and many of y'all's too I would assume, was 2016, in which Uzi absolutely murdered the cypher along with 21 Savage, Yachty, Kodak Black, and many others. Oh, and we can't forget X's freestyle the next year, I believe in 2017's list, and the list goes on forward and backwards in time. XXL has pretty much always been a great indicator year by year as to what the next series of hot rappers will be and currently are. But we can't forget, Tecca wouldn't be the first rapper to reject XXL, and even in recent times, for none other than Juice WRLD, Post Malone, and Tory Lanez, who are all legends in their own respects when it comes to success, all rejected XXL in the past few years. Not to mention other much smaller artists who believe they deserved better treatment from XXL, like Rich the Kid and Lil Skies, who rejected the list in the same year because they were given the last pick, obviously feeling very disrespected. Therefore, with all the information presented, it really isn't all too uncommon for an artist to reject a freshman nominee. But as we briefly discussed in the intro, why did these artists reject XXL in their respective years, and more specifically, why did Tecca this year? According to Lil Tecca's manager, it's pretty obvious that he's implying that Lil Tecca is simply too big, at least in their eyes, to be associated with the XXL freshman list anymore. For when an artist is chosen, it's almost a bit risky for their reputation due to how controversial the freshman list has become, and that everyone in their 3-year-old crusted poop sock collection has a different opinion on who should be on the list, and most of the time XXL seems to get blasted by hip-hop listeners on social media for including the quote incorrect artist. And in relation to this notion, chosen artist's reputation also lie vulnerable to being associated with quite literally the smallest artists on the list. For example, with this year specifically, I made a joke about Chica and whatever the hell the other chick's name was, Medusa or Mulatto. Like, bruh, whole lot of Bob probably got more streams than these no names, and no way I'm the only one who has no idea who they are. So essentially, with the average hip-hop listener literally never hearing about some of the artists on the list, the general consensus is that this year's XXL list is awful, or they fell off, and the like. And in this case, many artists don't even want to fall victim to even the slightest risk that this exact scenario occurs, which unfortunately for XXL has happened almost every year with at least one of the artists on the list. Therefore, a larger artist who doesn't necessarily need any more promotion or large-scale publication support will simply just reject the invitation, just like the aforementioned Juice WRLD, Post Malone, and Tory Lanez, who again already had massive successful careers before being invited onto the list. It's almost as if XXL averages out the cloud of all the artists on the list, wherein it pulls down the rep of the biggest artists, which I can imagine they might even pay sometimes, but can't confirm because I have no idea, and boosts the no names like the artists we just talked about. Wouldn't even be surprised if the no name artist labels paid fat stacks to be on the list too, because that's one of the biggest shoutouts one can get in the rap game. As for Lil Tecca though, specifically, was he justified by the concepts we just discussed in essentially being too big compared to the rest of the artists who did accept their invites? I figured the only objective way to truly analyze if Lil Tecca's rejection of the XXL freshman list was justified was to compare his streaming numbers to the already accepted current 2020 freshmen. And surprisingly, I discovered that it may not have been, whether we like it or not. For at first glance, Lil Tecca is, or at least was, a mainstream artist, considering his massive breakout hit Ransom that landed a Lyrical Lemonade music video and at this point has accumulated well over 250 million views on YouTube, not to mention peaking at number 4 on the Hot 100 Billboard, which is a crazy feat in itself that may be evidence already that Tecca might be too big of an artist for XXL. In addition to Ransom though, he has also accomplished 5 other singles on the Hot 100 Billboard, most notably with Did It Again at number 64, whereas the rest were pretty low in the 80s or 90s rankings. Also, as Tecca's manager mentioned, he sold roughly 70k albums, actually 68k first week with his debut studio project titled We Love You Tecca, after only being expected to sell 40k. So the 16-year-old at the time was literally defeating all odds. No one can take that away from him. As for 2020 though, Tecca hasn't attained the same amount of success, not even landing on Billboard once. But then again, he hasn't really released too many tracks or promoted them that heavily. But the real issue that irks my thought process is that some of the current artists on the 2020 freshman list have actually exceeded Tecca's success, at least numbers wise. Therefore, being on the list and freestyling in the famous annual XXL Cypher might have actually assisted Tecca's career, especially right before his album drops. Obviously, I know it's up to him and his management ultimately, and we might not understand all the details, so no offense to him, this is just objective analysis. But as I was saying, for example, Lil TJ in his career has landed on the Hot 100 Billboard 6 times just like Tecca, but then again, he only sold 45k first week on his debut project, so maybe that's not the best comparison. But Polo G, another artist similar to Tecca, snubbed of last year's freshman list, actually has 13, so more than double the Billboard hits as Tecca, as well as selling over 30k more units first week with his latest project at 99k. Another artist that technically surpassed Tecca is Rod Wave, who is somehow seemingly every week trending on YouTube with his music videos, at least from what I've seen, and has 11 Billboard hits, again many more than Tecca, as well as having sold 72k first week on his last project, also more than Tecca's 68k. And lastly, NLE Choppa has an equal amount of Billboard hits with 6, although his latest album is only estimated to sell 45k first week. But the point remains with Polo G and Rod Wave that Lil Tecca wouldn't actually be the biggest artist on the list, at least streaming wise, so I don't necessarily believe his team should have rejected the freshman class this year, at least not with the same confidence as say a Juice WRLD or Post Malone, some of the biggest artists in the world competing with the likes of Drake among other pop stars. Just my opinion though. I know some of y'all might not agree because numbers aren't everything. For what it matters, as Tecca's manager said, he is only 16 or 17 with only one project out, so the kid is well on his way to being a superstar if he plays his cards right, which he definitely has thus far. Looking forward to more hits on Virgo World, especially the possibility of Dolly with Uzi on that project. So with that, it's your boy Bobbalam signing off, rejecting every offer of a 42 Doug special in the future. Let me know in the comments if you think Tecca should have accepted the XXL freshman list this year. Make sure to like and subscribe while you're at it for the latest hip-hop news, drama, and analysis videos, as well as to follow me on all my socials in the description to join the Bob Gang if you with it. Peace out, cutty people. Know what I'm saying?